Okay, so by now a lot of people have seen The Dark Knight Rises, and a lot of people have seen my Dark Knight Rises movie review, and I thank you all for watching my movie review and liking it. And surprisingly, a lot of people were like, can you make a spoiler-filled video where you talk about the spoilers, go into a bit more detail? And while my initial movie review came out a few days early, and when you build my reviews around no spoilers whatsoever, it'd be kind of dick of me to be like, okay, here's a review of arguably the most anticipated movie of the summer full of spoilers. Yeah, I couldn't really do that without being a douchebag, but since the movie's been out for a weekend now, yeah, let's do a video with some spoilers. So if you haven't seen The Dark Knight Rises yet, don't watch this video, unless you really don't give a shit about spoilers, in which case, hey, welcome. Alright, so one of the first statements in my Dark Knight Rises review is that I was surprised as to where the characters were. Like Jim Gordon and Bruce Wayne. Of course, I was talking about Bruce Wayne's a bit of a cripple, and he's a recluse, he's kind of crazy. And I thought that was really awesome. I mean, the dude has no cartilage in his legs, he's physically inferior to where he was. He has a bunch of sheets over his piano and furniture in Wayne Manor. It looks like he just moved in. Wayne Enterprises is in the toilet. I didn't expect him to go that direction. Like Alfred told him, you hung up the cape and cowl, but you never moved on. You never tried to be a person. You're still trying to be Batman with nowhere to go. Which tells me one thing, which is even though the Joker is not mentioned in this movie, he has still messed with people's minds. 8 years later, people are still messed up from what the Joker did. He blows away Rachel Dawes. He turns Harvey Dent into a villain. They have to cover up Harvey Dent's murders, and they're all just still messed in the head. Which also goes for Jim Gordon. I felt bad for that dude. For 8 years, he's had to smile in front of the camera and be like, yeah, Harvey Dent, truth and justice. Not, oh yeah, the guy who tried to slaughter my kid, the douchebag. The other thing I talked about in my review is the unexpected direction that The Dark Knight Rises takes. And that is, of course, the fact that the bad guy wins halfway through the movie. You really look at it, he does, although I will always love the Joker most. Bane ultimately does what the Joker tried to do in The Dark Knight. The Joker had his victory with Harvey Dent, but with Gotham, he said, oh, Gotham's my playground now. Anyone who wants to stay here is going to play by my rules. He tried to make Gotham his own playground. They were like, oh, Batman, we must stop him. Bane comes on the scene. He's like, yeah, I'll do that halfway through my movie. And I thought that was great. It takes real balls for a director and a storyteller to be like, all right, I'm going to make the bad guy win halfway through this movie. You don't really see that much. You don't expect that going into this movie. I was like, all right, yeah, Bane, bad guy, Batman, good guy. Of course, I think Batman's going to lose the first fight. And he's going to have to work out, come back, and stop him. I didn't know it was going to be like, oh yeah, Batman's going to get his nutsack kicked in, and then he's going to have to come back and take Gotham back from the guy who has won. That was interesting. That was awesome. And it brought this movie up a couple good pegs. And that's why I loved Alfred in this movie, because he tells Bruce Wayne what we all see. He's like, dude, you just want to die. And you see that. Bruce Wayne's like, I have nothing out there for me. I just want to die. Which was the thing that bummed me out, is that Alfred says, peace, I'm out. I'm not going to bury you. I've buried enough members of the Wayne family. And after that, you don't see Alfred until the very, very end of the movie. In a storytelling aspect, I understand why Alfred wasn't in it. I mean, after Bruce Wayne gets broken, what's Alfred going to do? He'd probably end up getting slaughtered. Or he's going to be in Gotham and it's not going to show him that much anyway. Or he's going to be in Gotham and it's going to show him a lot, and it's going to be another story arc that we have to cover in an already long movie that's not long enough to cover everything thoroughly. But I just would have liked to have seen him more. You can't deny that. You know you wanted to see more of Alfred, even though you understand why he wasn't in it more. And to illustrate, I thought Bane was a complete badass. There's that scene where Batman and Catwoman are on the roof fighting, and they go over to the edge and they're going to jump onto that bat. I mean, you know, like the vehicle they call the bat. And Catwoman turns around and you see Bane just like walking towards her like this, and it has the Bane music. And he looks all like creepy. I was like, that guy's like Jason Voorhees with a brain. It's like he's always there. He never runs after you until he's there. And then after that, he's going to be moving lightning fast, punching pillars and breaking them apart. But the guy just walks towards you and that creepy chant's happening. You're like, yeah, well, gotta run. Because I'm certainly not going to fight because I'm not an idiot. If you're an idiot, he'll just be like, I will break you. Bane has a few menacing moments. Like that one scene where that little Daggett weasel was all like, stay here, I'm in charge. Bane just puts his hand on his shoulder and he's like, do you feel in charge? I love that shit. I was like, I would not feel in charge. Which is funny because I saw a comment that said Bane's voice sounds like Sean Connery's voice talking through Optimus Prime's voice box. Let's not stand on ceremony here, Mr. Wayne. It kind of does. I can see where Bane's just going off. And do you accept this man's resignation? And the resignation of the cramps? But hey, Sean Connery's voice is badass. Which what's also awesome is in that whole montage where Bane's just going off and you see rich people getting dragged from their homes and thrown into the street. At first I thought they were all the mercenary guys, but you you look and there's like bellhops and hotels are just hauling rich people out into the street and throwing them out there. And I was like, holy shit, the Joker was right. The chips are down and these civilized people are eating each other. Doesn't matter that they didn't blow each other's ships up at the end of The Dark Knight. No, we're in it for the long con. And that's another thing I loved about Catwoman. When Catwoman was talking to Bruce Wayne, she's like, maybe I like it this way. Which in stories like this, you see Catwoman is like that. In the end, of course, she ends up helping him, but initially she's like, no, I like it this way. Even though deep down I kind of don't. I recognize it's probably bad. And the scene I was talking about in my spoiler-free review where I said that there was a scene that I wish was about a half an hour longer, a situation, that was the scene after Batman gets his back broken and he has to heal and crawl out of that pit. I mean, he was in there for a few months. A few months. It just didn't feel like a few months. I would have liked to have seen more of the recovery phase, you know, him becoming the Batman again, which, like I said, would take the movie to be about a 3.5 hour movie, but hey, I'm willing to watch it. I want to watch it. In fact, I will probably love it. Which is funny because you know that chant, that Rise chant? You heard in the trailers, and in the soundtrack it plays when Bane's on the scene, but in the end, no one ever chanted that for Bane. That was all Batman. Bane never crawled out of that pit. They never chanted for him. They were chanting for the Batman. And you know when Bruce Wayne's climbing out of that pit and he becomes the Batman again, you know, in here, you know you wanted to cheer for him, man. That was badass. And one of the gripes about this movie is the way Bane goes out. And yeah, he went out really fast. It was one hit that hit him, but it's not like you didn't get a fight leading up to it. It's not like Bane was taken out mid-speech, you know, like the cops and Bane's guys were all lined up ready to fight, and then Bane stands up and he's all like, citizens of Gotham. Then he just takes one to the chest and he's dead. It wasn't like that. I mean, we saw Batman fight Bane. The fight was over. Then the torch was passed to another villain who's actually the main villain, and Bane's just there. The fact that he got wasted doesn't change the movie at all. I couldn't see anything else happening. Either Batman was going to get out of that situation and get away and Bane wasn't going to die, or he was going to take a shot to the chest from Catwoman on the Batpod, and that would be that. Which is funny because that Batpod blows holes into concrete. It blows away cars. Pretty sure Bane getting shot in the chest by that thing would pretty much make him just, it would just be a Bane splat, and that'd be that. Take it to a hard R, but it would be so worth it. And of course, the twist in the movie is that Miranda Tate is actually Talia al Ghul. And I wish I didn't see anything on that subject. I mean, months ago, if you read my blog, I wrote on there, I was like, oh, people have seen her in this robe. Is she Talia al Ghul? Is she not? And in the movie, it said that Bane is Ra's al Ghul's son. And at that point, I was like, okay, well, she can't be Talia al Ghul because that would make her and Bane brother and sister, and I don't think he's gonna go there. Never once thinking to myself, well, maybe Bane isn't actually the child. Maybe it's someone else, like Talia al Ghul. I just went with it. I didn't even think about it until the scene where Batman threw her the shotgun and he was like, guard the door. Then I was like, wait a minute, total wardrobe change. She's in a robe now. She wasn't a second ago. She is Talia al Ghul. Holy shit. And if you look at it, when she's talking about her Going Green project that they're going to turn into a bomb, she talks about bringing balance to the world. And that's everything Ra's al Ghul was talking about. But I love that twist. I love the fact that they just did that so well. The only bummer is for the Bane purists like I was talking about, who might think it's a little weird that Bane is Ra's al Ghul's kid. At a point when it's revealed that she's Talia al Ghul and Bane is not Ra's al Ghul's kid, oh, that's really cool, but you can't redo the 2 hours you spent thinking that Bane was Ra's al Ghul's kid and thinking that was weird. And I don't think everyone's gonna be like that, but I think there are a number of people who are like that. However, when Gordon's in the back of that big truck with the bomb and Talia al Ghul's driving and it goes over that thing and smashes and it kills her, and Gordon gets out of the back like, oh, sweet, I'm not a pizza right now. I was like, he'd probably be dead. And in this whole movie, you know that Batman's going to probably die at the end. And there's a nuclear bomb that he has to fly out there because the autopilot's not on. And then he flies out and it blows up and you're like, Batman. Which in the end, Batman gets his name cleared because Bane brought out to light. He was all like, "It's a false idol, it's corrupt." But then you find out that the autopilot was fixed by Bruce Wayne. Now, I've seen this movie three times now. I can't help it. I have a new friend that wants to watch it, and I'm like, okay, I'll watch it with you. And it's better the second time and better the third time. But I was watching for it, I was like, all right, at what point could he get out of the cockpit, eject or whatever? But the editing in the movie, it shows him in that cockpit down to like 5 seconds before it blows up. So he couldn't really get out, but he does get out. Because they say, oh yeah, he fixed the autopilot. Which at first I was like, oh, well maybe he fixed it, but he wanted to die anyway. But then Alfred goes to that one cafe he was telling Bruce Wayne about, and he sees Bruce Wayne there with Selina Kyle. People are saying, oh, is it like Inception? Is it up to your own interpretation? I don't think so. Because Alfred didn't know about Bruce Wayne and Selina Kyle being, you know, a thing. So I don't see why Alfred would imagine Selina Kyle there with him. So no, Bruce Wayne is there with Selina Kyle because he's nuke proof. Because even the cockroaches got scorched by the fallout, but not the Batman. I like Bruce Wayne's funeral. I like the fact that the few people who knew that Bruce Wayne was Batman, they were there and they got their closure. And they were like, yeah, no one will ever know. But there's a big statue in the middle of town square all like, I'm Batman. And that's cool. You know when Batman gave Jim Gordon the clue as to who he was like, a hero can be anybody. Even someone who does something as simple as put a coat around a child and let him know that the world hadn't ended. You think Gordon was like, oh yeah, that one kid I ever did that with, because I never did it to any other kid, because every other kid I was like, coat, well, no. You know what? I did that once. Who knows? And of course we have to touch on this, and that is JGL as Robin, John Blake. Which is funny because Christopher Nolan was like, Robin will never be in my movies. And really, he's not. This, I think, is open to a lot of interpretation. It says that John Blake's real name is Robin. That is a throwback to the character Robin, and he knows that Bruce Wayne is Batman. Then he finds the Batcave, and it ends there. So you're like, yeah, he's totally gonna pick up the mantle and be the next superhero. But does that mean he's gonna be Robin? I don't necessarily think so. I mean, a superhero whose superhero name is the same as his own name? That's like me being a masked superhero named Jeremy. That's weird. So is he gonna be Robin? Is he going to be the next Batman because Batman's a symbol? He could be anybody. All 3 movies illustrate this all the time. I don't know, but I kind of take the Christopher Nolan trilogy as the actual account of what happened in Gotham City. All the comic books and all that other shit are the exaggerations of the truth of what happened. Can't you see it? Like, Gotham City's a real place. It actually had things that happened, and that is, you know, what happened in the Christopher Nolan trilogy. And then years later, people make comic books and they're like, oh yeah, Batman and his sidekick Robin, and some historians are like, actually, Robin wasn't his sidekick. He was the one who became Batman after Bruce Wayne. But then, you know, they just made comic books and they figured, oh, well, we'll just make Robin his sidekick because they want to sell toys. I can kind of see it being a realistic thing like that. Just kind of how I see it anyway. And some people have griped about that. People are like, oh, Robin wasn't a cop. Well, this is a new guy named Robin whose future we don't really know, except the fact that he's going to pick up the mantle in some way, shape, or form. It's not saying he's Tim Drake. It's not saying he's Dick Grayson. It's not saying he's Jason Todd. People ask me if I see elements of Arkham City in this movie. I see elements of a few graphic novels. I see Arkham City, Nightfall, a little bit of Dark Knight Returns, which is my favorite graphic novel, by the way, just letting you know. Just like The Dark Knight was kind of an homage to The Long Halloween, I see this movie being an homage to those. In any case, The Dark Knight Rises is a great epic conclusion to one of the best movie trilogies we have. I mean, really, you think about it. I mean, there's Lord of the Rings and then the Dark Knight trilogy. You have your lighthearted stuff like Back to the Future and the Indiana Jones movies, because there's only 3 of them. There's only 3 of them. Epic trilogies where all 3 parts are great, they're really hard to come by. This is one of the ones that succeeded. Now, the $1,000,000 question to me is, what do I prefer, the Avengers or The Dark Knight Rises? It'll sound like a cop-out, but ultimately they are 2 completely separate movies with completely separate tones. And both do exactly what they're supposed to do perfectly. I mean, The Avengers is a great comic book movie, probably the best out there. But The Dark Knight Rises has concluded what the Dark Knight trilogy did, and that is transcend past great comic book movie into something bigger, something more. And when a trilogy can transcend past the box it started out in, dude, you gotta give it props for that. It's gotta be The Dark Knight Rises for me. Who knows, the conclusion of The Avengers might be more epic, but for now, Dark Knight Rises. And I'm wondering how many people out there think that means I think The Avengers suck. They both got Awesometaculars from me. You can love both. We live in a world where you can have both. I'm just saying, if there was a gun to my head and I had to choose one, I would choose Dark Knight Rises. So I'm not gonna ask you what you prefer, The Avengers or The Dark Knight Rises, because apples and oranges, not gonna go there. If you love both, love both. I'm going to ask you what your favorite trilogy of all time is. There's enough trilogies out there. Gotta know what it is. What is it? Comment below. Let me know. And as always, if you like what you've seen here and you want to see more, click right here to see more.